Good evening, everyone. So today is a good day of remembrance of Avalokiteshvara or Guanyin. We'll just stick to calling her Guanyin, or Chenrezig in Tibetan Buddhism. Maybe you'll be very familiar with that. And our Chintamani practice is based on the compassion and the wisdom of Guanyin, Avalokiteshvara. So what does Guanyin mean, right? The word it comes from a Sanskrit word of the sound perceiver, to perceive sound. And what kind of sound does Guanyin aspire to perceive? And why is she given that name? Because she aspired to gain enlightenment only after she has liberated all beings. But then that is just an aspiration, right? To be a bodhisattva, to practice as a bodhisattva. So Guanyin has vowed to reach out to the cries of the world. That's the sound she wants to perceive. She wants to look beyond the behaviors and the actions of people and to get deeply in touch with what they're suffering from, to build empathy, to build compassion, to build understanding. And from there to devise a way out of the suffering, to see how she can help them. It is not just about giving them spiritual advice or to give them the Dharma to practice. As what we have learned from Chintamani, sometimes we have to give people what they want in order to appease them temporarily and then to go deeper into addressing their needs, telling them what they need. Because some people could be suffering a lot, suffering tremendously, that they will just shut their eyes and their ears to the Dharma or the right kind of advice that can actually change their lives. They want something on the surface. And that's also the practice of contentment, isn't it? To be present, to look deeply into someone who is suffering, and to realize that although you may know what will truly benefit them, but they might not be ready. So what can you offer them at a point of time that can give them some relief from their suffering and give them some happiness, perhaps? Or maybe they just need to be left alone, that you need to offer your absence. This is a recap of what we learned in Chintamani, right? You all remember it? It is a great vow to make. Yeah, she's right behind me, right? Guanyin. Look at the world today. There could be tyrants in the world. They may cause an itch in you the moment you hear about them or you read about what they did, what they committed. Society can be very quick to judge and to think that we're better. Or perhaps we just want to find someone to blame, to channel all frustration and anger towards. And what does it mean to perceive the suffering of the world or to perceive the suffering of a tyrant? It is to go deeply and first and foremost to recognize that that person is suffering. If that person is not suffering, that person will not behave in such a way. It is like a volcano eruption. If you can walk around and spread peace, love, and joy and happiness, obviously you need to have that peace, love, joy, and happiness first. It is the same when someone comes and cause you suffering. They must have suffering to share with you before that, if it makes sense. We can choose to live in ignorance or to just react based on the behavior of others. Maybe someone does something harmful towards you, then you get upset about it, you get angry about it. Or you can go a step further by practicing the qualities of Guanyin, of Avalokiteshvara, to look deeply first, to first understand that person is tormented by his or her own suffering. That gives you perhaps some space to recognize that there is suffering there. That ignorance is what is causing the problem. And if someone is acting out of ignorance and causing harm and suffering to the people around you or the people around them, and if you were to react out of anger, hatred, frustration, or basically those come from ignorance as well. So if you're going to react out of ignorance, It could be that we're just adding on to the fire of ignorance to continue that in the world. But if we can take a step back and choose to return to the Buddha nature within, to look at things with the eyes of the Dharma, the eyes of Guanyin, how would Guanyin perceive that situation? And we are all alive, human beings. We have been through a lot in life. We have been through ups and downs, good and bad. We could have undertaken some kind of behavior that's not wholesome before in the past. You can just think back to those moments. What when you are not acting out of your best element? Perhaps you react out of anger. Perhaps you have the fire in you. What's needed for you at that point of time? You can vent, you can rant it out. But what were you really looking for at a point of time? Perhaps it may feel good when someone rants and gossips and shout together with you. They add oil to that fire, But what was it that your heart was really trying to seek? Was it some understanding and compassion? Was it some acknowledgement? When we practice in Tantra, we always pick a deity to visualize and to emanate those qualities. It's not whether those deities or those Buddhas exist as real physical entities or not. It's not that. In Tantra, we study the story and the aspirations of certain deities, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas. And then we visualize ourselves as them. That is to emulate the kind of qualities, emulate what they stand for. So the practice of Guanyin, it is to emulate deep understanding and compassion. But in our day-to-day life, when there is no suffering happening, how do we conduct ourselves? How do we live mindfully? How do we continue getting in touch with life? In my line of work, people come to me for all sorts of things. Some people come for coaching, some people come for meditation training, some people come for advice. There are people who come for blessings as well, all sorts of things. So throughout the years, I've met a lot of people. People with different kind of, not just suffering, but different kind of transitions that they're going through. I was having a chat recently with a client of mine. So that client of mine, he's doing pretty well, in the world, making good money. I guess he should be happy. And then I was looking around at some people in the city, So I was looking at workaholics or city people working, running around, rushing, and just getting in touch, like how are they feeling at that point of time? And I sent some loving kindness to them. I saw people who were smiling, and I just wished them to continue being happy. May that happiness not be taken away. I see people who are stressed and suffering, and I know that I am busy as well at a point of time. I can't just go and talk to every stranger. So I just like, may that person find some peace or find some solace. May the person receive some kindness. To kind of build that landscape. But then I saw a bunch of what they call blue-collar workers. They were having their break. They were sitting down at some alley. They were eating and drinking, taking a break. Then it reminded me that there was once two people who were foreign workers. They were working at a coffee shop. They came up to me for some blessings. They were not ready for the Dharma, and they couldn't wish for anything else. All they wished for was, which they didn't know they need, which is health, good health, right? May everyone be safe and healthy. So they were just hoping to win the lottery. So they came to me. So I told them that if I could give lottery numbers, then I would buy it myself. Why would I give it to you? I wouldn't have to work so hard after all. So fast forward to the client that I was speaking with, who occasionally goes to casinos. Yeah. So that's when I look deeply and I say that there are people in the world that they can't wish for anything else. They are kind of just stuck in the career paths that they did not choose. They just don't have the privilege to choose. They're just stuck there. And all they can wish for is for some luck in lottery money. But then on the other hand, I believe most of you here, you don't need that lottery luck because you have received an education. You are in a relatively good place. Maybe if you want a blessing, it could be that you just want to have some career opportunities or business opportunities, some smoothness, something to remove some obstacles, which I think puts all of us here in a very good position in life. Of course, in the Buddhist practice, we say that we should not wish for things outside of ourselves, right? We should not go out seeking happiness and meaning outside. We need to return to our mind, to our hearts, right? But we are all not monastics, right? Believe you want promotion sometimes. That's why you switch jobs and look for something of more meaning. And then, if the job gives you meaning, then the rate, hold up, the salary must make sense, right? Let's be honest. I feel that we are privileged in some way. That when you need to pray for something, there's something that you can actually pray for. And it's actually about acquiring more. At the back of our heads, you may say it makes sense. I worked hard, I studied hard, I performed well, I need a bigger bonus. I need more money. Well, because I have family to feed. But I look at those blue-collar workers, I think they have family to feed as well. So that was part of the practice I've been doing the past few weeks, when I decided to just come and work in the city. You just walk around and just get in touch. So it comes down to this question of why are so many people unhappy in life? Some people are stressed at work. Some people create politics at work. Some people abuse one another. Maybe you may be a victim of work politics. Maybe someone elbowed you while climbing up the corporate ladder, or someone stabbed you in the back. I think it is a blessing to even experience that. Because if you're just stuck in a job where there's no advancement for you, then you wouldn't even experience that. Maybe those people want it. And so they say the grass is always greener on the other side. So my point of sharing this is that we ought to practice gratitude and contentment to see where we are at in life, how far we've come, what are the opportunities that we have that some people can only wish for. But then life is not all about work. You have your personal relationships, you have health, perhaps you have your fitness goals. Then it comes to your own individual well-being, your own spiritual growth. What can we do about it? A lot of you show up for these Wednesday sessions and practice, we get our insights, and then we went on to apply it in our daily lives. So in our daily lives, when you take a pause in between meetings, or you get from point A to point B, that in between, how can we live up to that Bodhisattvahood in us? And how can we emulate those Bodhisattva qualities? How can we act in compassion? How can we live in such a way that we are also in touch with emptiness, with the interbeing of all things, with that oneness? How can you be connected to the essence of oneness as you go through your day? In the Mahayana monasteries, back when I was a monk, I went to all three Buddhist traditions to practice, and we always recite this Bodhisattva aspiration. So the Bodhisattvahood, it is an aspiration. It's not an attainment. You just vow, you aspire to live in such a way that can reduce the suffering of yourself and others. So the first one, it means to be aware that there's a lot of countless beings. You don't live alone in this world. There's a lot of suffering in a lot of beings. And is to aspire to practice in such a way that we can help them to reduce the suffering or to liberate them from their sufferings. But why is it important to get in touch with the suffering of the world? Because it shows that there is common humanity. And the second thing, so first one, Alvin, if you remember, you can type, or anyone. So the second aspiration that the Bodhisattvas make, it is, may I vow to cease all mental afflictions, because mental afflictions are the causes of suffering. So to sum it up, it is the three mental afflictions of greed, hatred, and delusion. Greed or unwholesome desires. Jai or Elvin can type it down. And greed, hatred, and delusion. Hatred. These are all translated from the Pali and Sanskrit. It could mean aversion, resistance. And the third one is delusion. These are the three things we want to get in touch with, and to be mindful of. That these three mental afflictions, they don't just come up in us, they come up in others as well. They cause suffering. That is the culprit. And the third one is to vow to open all Dhamma doors. And what is a very important point here, in the scriptures, in the sutras, it is said that there are 84,000 Dhamma doors. And it said to vow to open all of them. 84,000, it doesn't mean that you're going to learn 84,000 ways to practice the Dhamma. Because by the time you reach 84,000, I don't know how many lifetimes it's going to take. You're going to remember what you learned in the past life, right? It means that there are limitless Dhamma doors. Those limitless ways to practice. To discover new ways of practice. That as long as they are still grounded in the teachings, we can try to devise new ways. So it's not just about, okay, everything vipassana, go silence your mind, go still your mind, and go observe all your bodily sensations. Okay, observe how the 12 links of dependent co-arising arises in you. Look at the 5 aggregates as impermanent, and because they're impermanent and you grasp onto them, they cause suffering. And because they're impermanent and cause suffering, and they are all about change, then there's no self in them. Getting bored yet? I'm serious. In Thailand, they preach like that. Okay, every monk that gets on the pedestal, they talk like this, and I will just observe, on the pedestal as well. I look at the villagers, and they are all either falling asleep or chatting away, and I look at the monks like, are you not aware of the present moment? People are bored with it. Thanks, Zoe, for the chat. So to open new Dhamma doors is first to get in touch, with the practice yourself, and then find new ways that we can devise new kinds of formats for people to practice that is relevant to today's needs. But that is not to say to throw everything from the traditions away. Okay, otherwise you just be taking ayahuasca, japping LSD, and just going all kinds of things, or go for not hypnotherapy or hypnosis and try to do some spiritual bypassing. You just be doing all of that. And trust me, part of my profession is to be the healer of healers. So I have a lot of healers in Singapore come to me because they have problems, right? So because of client confidentiality, I can't name who are they, but some of them are pretty famous and make quite a lot of money, right? Doing healing for others, but they get into problems. They come to me. So it is to acknowledge that there are ways that we can practice. There are modern scientific measures, modern modalities that we can use and see how we can integrate it with the traditional teachings and put them together in a way that we can present it for modern people to understand. So if someone is suffering one day, you don't just go and tell your friend, you go and meditate, go and zen, and then everything go and om and everything will go away. The person will just om until he or she gets pissed off, right? And they'll just try to zen you away instead. That do happen, So the whole point, right, is to get in touch with suffering, affliction, and to vow to open Dharma doors, to learn to be receptive to new ways of practice, of how we can adapt along the way. And then the fourth one is what sums it all up. The fourth aspiration. It is, yes, the Buddha always unsurpassable. It means to vow for that spiritual perfection, for enlightenment. That you want to attain the highest, the greatest awakening. And why do you want to attain the greatest awakening? Because you attain the greatest awakening in order to know whether your methods are right or wrong. Otherwise, how can you gauge? It's not just based on testimonials that your methods are right. It's based on how much you can help someone to relieve their suffering, but first by transcending those suffering and sorrows within you. So those are the four. So there's a lot of ways to translate them. Thanks, Alvin, for typing that down. If you look for these four, you Google, then perhaps you see different kind of translations. All these were translated from the Sanskrit and then to some Eastern Asian languages like Chinese, Japanese, Korean. Then we use English, which is a very new language, right? That we try to translate them and to make sense of them. These are the four, thanks, Zoe. Yep. So how can we practice the four? And it is through this understanding. And to liberate all beings, to save them, doesn't mean that you need to become a teacher. If everyone is teachers, then who's going to practice? Who's going to keep the economy running? How can the infrastructure continue? But in your day-to-day life, perhaps you deal with people who are difficult, or maybe you deal with people who are not difficult. How do you practice being a bodhisattva? How do you apply the teachings? Maybe in the past, something can make you annoyed or irritated, something that is stupid or ridiculous. But after you have started on the practice, what changed in the way you respond to people? How do you develop more compassion? Ken?
So I guess for me, a lot of times I try to do better at understanding people, to understand where they're coming from, to see what makes up their behavior. So I guess for me, the practice, it helps me to try to see things in a clearer way, to see how I act in the situation, to see how the other person acts in the situation, to understand what is going on in the in the context of things. And that helps me to see what is it that is the problem. So if I'm irritated with somebody, or if I'm angry with somebody, there are things that the other person couldn't help it. Something turned out this way because of various other things that led to the action today. And understanding that removes the irritation, because you're not so much, there's nothing to be irritated about or angry about with the person per se, once you understand why things led to this situation. And that gives you a more sanguine perspective, a more compassionate perspective as to how somebody became this way, how somebody acted this way. And sometimes it's just funny because you know that this person came to this situation because of things that were not under his control, or because of certain ways that he reacted. And then sometimes you think, oh no, actually they're just children and there's not much to be angry about. So I guess for me, the practice gives me a more a bigger perspective of things, and it also helps me to let go of some of these irritation that I feel when I encounter situations. So part of it, of course, is not just looking into the other person, but it's also looking into myself, like how I react to them, and how I'm also part of the circumstance that led to the situation that I'm not happy with. Sometimes it could be myself. Sometimes it could be something within me that, I realized that, actually, part of the situation was something I did previously. And then I would have to own that and then move forward from there, forgive myself, forgive the other person. Ideally, but I will understand it conceptually, and then eventually I will let go of it.
For me, I used to be very impatient. So like in every way, so like driving or dealing with people, like at work, if I don't get like things fast enough or like results fast enough, and then I will get that, that like feeling, just get very like irritated and very angsty. So after my practice, I think, after meditating for a while, I realized that like, what's the rush? Like, why am I rushing to correct? Like if something takes a little bit longer, like 10 minutes longer in the 7-Eleven queue, like how is that going to affect my life? Like nothing. And then like if I spend like a little bit longer like explaining something to someone at work, like what cost is that to me? Like nothing as well. So so a lot of so I became like, I wouldn't say I became more patient, but I think I became less impatient. Just the feeling I don't like rush everywhere like all the time anymore. Like I learned the importance of just, kind of like taking things slow. I have more time for myself. Um, because not really there's no rush, right? Like we just enjoy the present moment and like what you have right now. So I think that's one way that my practice has helped me.
Hi everyone. Yes. So how the practice has helped me, I think similar to the two who shared earlier, Ken and Shok. I'm also a bit quite impatient, quite being an understatement. So the practice has helped me immensely, because most of the time this impatience doesn't even manifest overtly. People don't even know about it. But that burning continues inside of me. It's with constant practice, practicing beyond the mat, also in daily situations, because that's where you get tested, right? Because when you're on your mat, you're sort of in your comfort zone, and you control your challenges because you define what happens in your mind, right? And is when we are outside, especially at work, that all of these parts of us get challenged. So for me, it's been quite a journey. So even after I started practicing meditation, still continue to work on it, realizing that, like what Ken said, is sometimes it's our own projections that creates that reaction in others, right? It's not them, but sometimes it's not them, it's not me either, but it's what, after that moment, after the event, how I choose to react, then that decides what happens next. So the practice has first allowed me to truly take a step back. In the beginning, taking a step back is like a tug of war between myself and that crazy voice in the mind. But now there's not so much of a tug of war. It's like accepting that, that crazy voice is indeed going to say something. I don't have to listen to it. Don't be so reactive. That's where the practice has led me. Be open to listening to what people are saying without that instinctual judgment. This is what I've noticed. It's a work in progress. It takes time, a lot of patience. Years ago, I would have imagined that I would be able to reach this moment. From screaming almost every day to talking loudly and not screaming. So, yeah. Also, this practice would have been possible alone. I have to thank DK, I thank the community also. That's all I have. Thank you.
So, what does it mean to walk like a Bodhisattva or to emanate medicine Buddha in your daily life? Getting in touch with your own Buddha nature, your enlightened presence, how does it impact your world since you've been practicing for more than a decade?
On many levels, I think sometimes I wonder if it's me choosing the path or the path have chosen me. And the reason why I embarked on the medicine Buddha path was because I had cancer. And when you have cancer, it shakes up your world and makes you look at your completely, in a different way. I think because I went through that suffering of going through radiation treatments and all that, I come to this world. And I think, because of that, after Dharan taught me about medicine Buddha, I kind of made a vow that whomever show up in my life, I will provide those type of healings and release their suffering and pain in the best possible way. I think sometimes we all have sort of pain and suffering, because without that, you don't understand the pains of others. It makes you less selfish. It makes you more compassionate because you've been through that, and whatever you felt at that time, you don't want any other person to go through something similar. And I think it kind of nurtured my compassion since then. So on many levels, I feel like my cancer was a gift to me, because I can honestly tell you had a chip on my shoulder 10 years ago. Coming from New York, and it was like, I had this badass attitude. But it kind of softened me up. I feel like this whole cancer thing really put me on my spot, and that I believe everyone is worthy of love. Everyone is worthy of, you know, compassion, and I think that kind of nurtured that Buddha nature in me. Makes me want to learn more about it. It makes me want to kind of continue on with this path with this kind of attitude. Especially after, you know, the year that we went through last year, I feel like this world needs more love. This world needs more compassion. And if you can influence one person, that person can, you know, influence their own community. So it's about propagation. It's about planting seeds, one individual at a time. So that's my belief system at this point in my life, is to just be kind, be kinder, love better, because that's what the world needs right now. So I also thank DK and the community to allow me to check in on a weekly basis and show me the way, because we're all in this together, and that, you know, I feel a lot of love from this community. So I feel very blessed. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. And then thank the communities that I've practiced in before, that showed me the path, and the teachers that showed me the way. So it's when people thank me, it's just a continuation of them. And so for all of you for showing up all the time, it allows me to get in touch, you know, with the Dharma wheel, to spin the Dharma wheel every time a session goes on. So maybe you could have just one more sharing also, you know, from your own experience, you know, having gathered from this short talk. You know, we have one more sharing. Just remember, nothing philosophical, nothing intellectual, but just based from your heart, and what is coming out of your heart at this point of time in regards to what has gone on, you know, through this session. We've heard 4 or 5 people speak up till now, including myself. So just bow in if you need to, and unmute yourself.
Hi everyone, I would like to share. So responding to the question that DK has posed, how did the practice has helped me in my journey? I would say that, like, a bit of background, like I used to come from a background of autism. So a bit of like when you have autism, the one thing is that you have a kind of a head and a heart, the head-heart body disconnect. So you're always living in, like, very in the mental realm, you know. And so you have, like, not very in touch with your feelings, not in touch with your body. You feel off of your body. And one thing I realized that and that meditation and mindfulness really helped me in terms of really connecting to the present moment, connecting to my feelings, my sensations, my body. And actually, when it is kind of like being aware of my feelings, being aware of how I feel, and not just how I think, is actually very important in daily life, because most of the time, even when we are in a difficult situation, like, for example, somebody has angered us or something like that, and, you know, we react. And then if you have some time, you know, after that, the incident, you think that most of the time, and I think most of us, we can empathize with the person. It's like, oh, actually, on hindsight, yes, actually the person was angry because of this or that, you know, we can let go, we can forgive. I mean, but how about during the moment, you know? How about mindfulness, being mindful in the moment? I feel that meditation really helped me in that. And one of the reasons is because actually a lot of time when I think when I observe, most of the time when we react, the time is already too late. The feeling is already coming out, it's overwhelming us and everything. And we kind of already, and on hindsight, we think like, oh, okay, I was angry, I was this, I was that. but actually during the moment, we are not aware of the feeling. So, but during meditation, actually, we just sit when I sit myself, I just like kind of feel and connect to my body and my sensations and just being present in the moment. Like there's so much stuff going on, like even underlying anxiety of the day, things like that, so much feelings going on. And I realized that actually a lot of times, even before the mind registers that, I'm anxious, I am angry, or I am sad, like it actually happens within the body first. It happens as a kind of feeling in the body. I'm not saying even emotional feeling, I'm saying as a physiological response, like, butterflies in the stomach, things like that. And, when I'm anxious, butterflies comes up, when I like want to speak, but I feel like I'm blocked, the throat clamps up, things like that, and all this is like, you have to kind of quiet the mind, take away distraction. You really have to come back and be present and to really feel the subtle things in the body. Then after that, you get more and more aware. Then you can say, oh, okay, I'm actually anxious. I'm actually angry. Then I can become mindful and conscious of how then would I want to respond, instead of just reacting because of this unconscious feeling that is coming out, but then I didn't know, and then I'm just like responding, just reacting. So I feel that this is actually very powerful for me, and that it has made me a lot more present and more mindful, and also a lot more in touch with my entire being. So yeah, so this is what I have experienced through the journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Joy. Thanks, everyone. It's so nice to have a community of students because I don't have to look for content all the time. I just dig out content from them. That's why set up a community wherever you are. It helps. Turn your team into your community, into your well-being community. They will fill in the roles for you. And that's what the thousand arms Avalokiteshvara is, isn't it? Having 1,000 arms around. The 1,000 arms can symbolize having 1,000 methods to liberate beings from suffering. And in each of those 1,000 arms, there's an eye of wisdom there, is to look clearly, to have understanding first before reaching out to help. So we offer the eye of wisdom first. 1,000 arms can also mean that in every community, each and every one of us is an arm. But can we be an enlightened arm and not an octopus, right? that shoots the toxin out. And whichever community or group of people you belong to, be it at work or anywhere else, how can you be an arm of enlightenment that can change? Each arm is one method, each arm is one eye, each arm is a part. So it is parts that make up a whole, and a whole consists of parts. Some people say that some people can complain, that, oh, I'm not in a good place. The environment around me is not practical, it's not wholesome, this and that. But hey, you're there, you're alive, right? You can make that change. It's not your. So the 1,000 arms, right? They don't try to heal each other, right? They're just shooting outward, right? Healing a particular thing, isn't it? So how can your mindful presence, how can you step into your own element and to just add a bit of goodness into whichever group you belong to, right? Work in harmony with the other arms, but be your unique arm at the same time. That is the balance. That's the yin and the yang. No, we shouldn't find so much excuses to undermine ourselves, thinking that we have limitations, because the truth is that there are limitations in the world. Physical limitations and mental limitations, emotional limitations. But what are spiritual limitations? Spiritual limitations happens when the mind attaches to all those external mental, emotional limitations. That's what spiritual limitation is about. But if you can step back and understand with wisdom, with understanding from based on what you just heard, then you can step back in to the pure spiritual self or the pure mind, knowing that things are impermanent, things are subject to change, that you don't have to be bound by these mental afflictions that come about. Then perhaps you see a different path out, right? And that's it. That's life. And that's what the Bodhisattva aspiration is about. It's not about chanting all the time. Chanting on Zhongzhen, Wu Bian Si, Yan Du Fan Nao, or you can go on and on. Or start studying the Bodhisattva. What is it, Maybelline? Alvin? Jai? You see, I literally stopped reading so much text that I forgot what it meant. Bodhisattva Charavatara or something. That text, okay? It's about the path of the 37 stages of 37 practices of the Bodhisattva. Reciting things like this as a reminder, it is good. But we need to open new Dharma doors. Write them in a way that you understand into 3 simple steps or 5 simple reminders that you can read. Write them in a poetic manner if you need to. That correlate to your life, the way you live. How can you remind yourself to practice the path of the Bodhisattva, which is very simple. It is to be mindful, to learn to take care of yourself, to look beyond the actions and behaviors of society, to get in touch with suffering of self and others, develop some compassion, learn to accept, learn to embrace. And that's about all. It is really that simple. The problem is sometimes we tend to overcomplicate things. If you look at the Buddha, he walked around for 45 years in ancient India to teach different people. Back then, there was no Google, there's no internet, there's no telephone, there's nothing of that sort. So when the Buddha is delivering a talk somewhere, no one can hop on Zoom and listen at the same time. So whoever the Buddha spoke to, right? He spoke to this particular group of people, and then he would leave. And that's all. Maybe some of them turned into monastics and followed him, but a lot of them had to go on, in their city, and that's it, And they only listened to the Buddha once. They didn't have to complicate themselves so much. They just remember that one teaching, and they put it into use. They apply it, and then they discover the Dharma and what it means. That's it. Just one simple teaching. It is nice, we have Zoom. We are kind of trying to purify Zoom, because a lot of us use Zoom for work, and now we're using Zoom for spiritual journeys. So we are able to get in touch with these teachings, getting on these live sessions, signing up for different courses, read books, listen to talks. But sometimes enough is enough. It is time to apply. So the practice is actually that simple. You study, and then you gain some kind of understanding and inspiration, and then you go and try it out, apply it, see how it works for you. Then after you've tried it out, then perhaps your understanding deepens, or you encounter some questions, and then you go look them up again. Look them up just to apply them again. Don't get lost and go look up and then read and then just get lost in studies. So what it is twofold: study and practice, study and practice. It is actually really that simple, right? When you first drank alcohol, do you have to study what it means to be drunk? You don't, right? You just go, the next day, I'm drunk. Okay, how do I get over a hangover? Then you can ask your friend, right? And then, this is how I get over a hangover, and that's it. So it's the same thing in our own spiritual cultivation. You experience, you get in touch with yourself, right? So stretch and get into your comfortable posture. It's an act of loving kindness towards yourself. You take 5 deep breaths, breathing in through your nose and releasing completely from your mouth. Just drop your awareness to the breath that is happening in your body. Notice how the safe air around you is flowing into your lungs. Notice how once your lungs are comfortably full, they will release the air on their own, regulating through your nostrils. Shine your light of mindfulness onto you. Notice how the air around you and your body are breathing you, breathing for you. Just connecting with your heart, or even better, your lower dantian, your sacral. Acknowledging that there is a seed of understanding and compassion in everyone, including yourself. Beyond all doubts and mental afflictions, there is a seed of awakening. There is that pure mind that can be noticed in the space between all thoughts. O dear noble Avalokiteshvara, Guanyin, you are the Bodhisattva of great understanding and compassion. We know that you are not separate from us, for there is the seed of compassion and understanding in every sentient being. There is an Avalokiteshvara in every part of the world, and also deeply within ourselves. Times when we are in touch with compassion, whether we are receiver or giver of it, that is your presence, the emanation of you. We have come together today, sitting in the comforts of our own home or surroundings, in a protected place. We know we are safe and we can be contented. Listening to the teachings and sharings, we know that we can open up our hearts. We can go to you with our open minds and hearts. Whether there's suffering or joy, you have made the great aspiration to perceive all the sounds and cries of the world. And suffering is the doorway into your heart. That we are the cause of your aspiration. We are what motivated you to become enlightened. And as we breathe together as a Sangha, may you, dear great Bodhisattva, emanate your grace and light to watch over our practice and to guide us in the path of the Bodhisattva, so that we can practice in such a way that reduces the suffering of our society, to recognize the mental afflictions and the ways to quell them, and to open up new Dharma doors and all Dharma doors for the highest awakening for ourselves, our loved ones, and others. The great Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara, Guanyin, riding and rising above the oceans of birth and death, of suffering and joy, can visualize her coming towards you with a compassionate heart and smile, smiling and shining her light straight into your heart. As you breathe on from your heart, connected to Guanyin's heart, for the initiated ones may perform the initiation, incantation, and mudras. As Guanyin descends into your heart and enlarges herself, becoming one with you, radiating her light, and seeing you the way you are without any judgment. You can surrender and open yourself up to this great enlightened being. Allow your body and your mind to be free. And you can trust in the presence of an enlightened being that perhaps there's no words that you need to speak. There's no message that you need to send. You are made of non-you elements, and Guanyin is made of non-Guanyin elements. Therefore, the communication is already perfect. And she sees it all, she hears it all. She opens up her lotus of compassion to receive you. seeing your life as it is. With her gentle mudras in her hands, she shines light into different areas of your life and into your history, all the good and the bad, reminding you of compassion. And you can just open yourself up to her. Dear Guanyin, practice for me, trusting in my own awakened nature. Breathing as one, allowing Guanyin to come through you, to breathe for you, to reveal life as it is for you. Radiating lights of kindness and understanding. Getting in touch with moments of awakening and wisdom, moments of compassion, or even moments of suffering. So Guanyin is offering light and flowers to those moments. Whatever Guanyin is in touch with, it's as though she's whispering to you that it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattvaya Bodhisattvaya Mahakarunikaya Hrdyam Daradara Dhire Dhire Dururu Ite Tsale Tsale Razale Kusume Kusumavare Ile Siddhajvalayam Hapanaye
Forming the thousand arms mudra, visualizing thousand arms appearing and manifesting. Shining light in all directions into every dimension of past, present, future. Using Guanyin's eye of wisdom and healing hands of compassion, getting in touch with suffering and joy. Guanyin's grace and power and enlightenment. You as Guanyin can penetrate deeply into those moments to see the suffering of that time and how they're brought about by the mental afflictions of greed, hatred, aversion, and ignorance and delusion. And it doesn't matter whether they are your mental afflictions or that of others. They are simply mental afflictions. And with a great compassion and understanding, Guanyin radiates endlessly into them. Sending blessings of healing and light and lotuses and dharma wheels and pearls. Dispelling those mental afflictions so that the heart of compassion can grow. And Guanyin multiplies herself and appears in those situations. To guide beings and yourself onto the path of deliverance, of enlightenment and light. Delegate this to Guanyin to shine, penetrate, heal, manifest, and disperse into light. Sending out loving kindness endlessly into the world, to all beings and all realms. Awakening the heart of compassion. Penetrating deeply into the suffering of beings. And have Guanyin bless them, guide them.
Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattvaya Bodhisattvaya Mahaparunikaya Hrdyam Dharanara Dhire Dhire Duru
transforming, revealing an image of Guanyin in every being. Wherever compassion flows, Guanyin manifests herself there. And all Guanyins practice together as one, radiating light in countless directions unto one another. Shining through and shattering the shells of all beings to reveal their Buddha nature and to manifest them into Guanyins. The light flows in every direction, interpenetrating one another. And all the Guanyins coalesced and form the enormous Guanyin in front of you, a Guanyin that's made up of Guanyin atoms. Beautiful, great being of various colors, made up of various colors of Guanyin to form one single Guanyin in front of you. And you sit in the presence of Guanyin, who acknowledges your practice and your aspirations. Who looks deeply into your wondrous eye of a child. Yes. Guanyin shines deeply into you. Radiating light into the different roles and identities that you play in life, the different settings and the different environments. And with great faith and openness, you can pray to Guanyin to ask for her blessing, to ask her to guide the way, to show you how you can walk on the earth as a living Bodhisattva that can keep you centered, that can keep you radiating blessings to effect the best positive change. To spew flowers and leave beautiful footprints in the world. How will the Bodhisattva path manifest in your life? Don't think, don't imagine. Have Guanyin shine a light into your being, into your mind, into all your roles, responsibilities, and settings and environment. And let Guanyin open those Dharma doors for you. Let her show you. Let your mind be free, your heart be open, your hands and your arms all be free. expanding that clarity. It's as though Dharma views are being manifested through all these different pathways to transform the path, or simply to reveal the Pure Land and the Dharma path that is right in front of you. Shining out to your colleagues, your friends, and your families. And transforming all of them into light. And may even the unseen beings, the gods or the spirits, recognize this Dharma wheel, this light of Avalokiteshvara, of Guanyin. And may they clear the path for you, support you on the path, bring about blessings for you so that you can shine it and radiate it to all other beings. But when you recognize Guanyin in those moments, can all beings will recognize Guanyin at that point of time. With 1,000 arms, Guanyin will disperse 1,000 different kinds of blessings. Shining out even to the galaxies, the different planetary systems, and their corresponding deities, sending out blessings with Guanyin's arms to clear all astrological and karmic obstacles, to dispel them with the power of Dharma, the merits of Guanyin. So that it can be easier for you to arrive with each step, with each breath, into your own awakening nature, to continue the journey of the Bodhisattva with ease and peace. Breathing in, getting in touch with the heart of awakening and compassion. Breathing out, expanding that light throughout the multiverse. Sending unconditional love, loving kindness, just sending out and sending out. Mentally reciting the heart mantra of Guanyin, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Vibrating Om Mani Padme Hum into every molecular structure and every atom, into the multiverse. And they all echo that mantra endlessly, overlapping one another, until the entire cosmic consciousness is only filled with the vibration of Om Mani Padme Hum. On the next out breath, release the mantra recitation into space. And all the planets, the multiverse, acknowledge your practice and your gift of loving kindness. And they reflect that light and loving kindness back to you, straight into your heart, receiving from all directions as you inhale. And breathing it back out as you exhale. The more you send out, the more you receive, the more you receive, the more you send out. Shattering the idea of giver and receiver. Shattering the idea of self and other, here and there, in and out, past, present, and future. There is no separation. In the awakened mind, there is nothing to balance, for there is no segregation. There is only peace. Let go of your practice and your contemplations. Thank the Buddhas and Guanyin. Thanking all spiritual teachers and generations. And dedicating tonight's practice, the merits of today's practice, to all beings, starting from your loved ones, to your friends and family, to your enemies, to all different realms and classification of beings, those near or far away, the seen and the unseen. May our collective practice bring forth the threefold bliss for them. May they be guided onto the path of nirvana. May their suffering be transcended. May they be healthy, be well, be safe, be happy. Namo Sigato. Namo Sigato, Namo Sigato. May we all continue on this beautiful path in our own unique way. May we be mindful of the resources that we have in the present moment. May we live in such a way that we can get in touch with the blessings and beauty of life, so that we can be strong, have clarity, and have capacity to also be in touch with suffering as they arise, whether they arise in self or other. May we recognize suffering. May we aspire to live in such a way that we can help all beings liberate themselves from suffering and to end all the harmful mental afflictions that arise in the mind. May we aspire to open all the countless Dharma doors and to achieve and attain, accomplish the highest awakening. Namo Sigato. Om Mani Padme Hum. So we are touched by everyone's practice, and we have raised, I think, 500-ish Singapore dollars. So as mentioned, 90% will be donated to Plum Village, to help the monastics over there. So we're grateful for all of your practice. Remember, if you do have some kind of good experience in this meditation, getting in touch with the love, or the expansion, tranquility, loving kindness, compassion, oneness, whatever that is, or you could send a bit of light, shed a bit of light into those people, into those beings. It also shows that you have that capacity to do it in your daily life, because what's the difference between your daily self and your meditator self? It's the same mind, same heart. Right? So you're able to even have a glimpse of that Guanyin or that healing. It means that you could emanate it anywhere you go. That's it. No? So today's session is just to prove to you that there's no excuses in your daily life not to do your best to walk like a Bodhisattva, practice like a Bodhisattva. The world needs this more than ever now. And remember, whatever you do right now, you're creating a path for future generations, your descendants or your subordinates to continue. So what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? What kind of seeds do you want to leave behind? That's entirely what it's up to you, right? Because it is in the present moment where we create the future, and it is also in the present moment where we create the past. Because if you're going to look back at today, tomorrow, today will be classified as past. So this moment, cherish it while you're alive, and just stay strong in it, Most important of all, your Bodhisattva aspiration, I hope that we could remember it, that bit by bit, we can make a change. The Buddha has this analogy that when in the creek, there's a big rock and then water just drips on that rock, after like thousands or millions of years, the rock will deform. So whatever good or bad actions in body, speech, and mind that we produce, that is going to have a long-term effect. It's going to be huge. You don't think, it's nothing much, a rock, changing its size. Tell me about it, if you get lost in a cave one day, and then you wish that there's a rock where you could actually sit on very comfortably. It does make a difference. Whatever effort that you put in, trust me, you will change your life. So go on with your practice, and I shall not hold any of you up anymore. So take care, everyone.